All right, I am excited. What is the date today? Tuesday morning, December 23rd, closing in on the end of the year. And we have LA talking to Miami, Fort Lauderdale. Welcome, Steve.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Just spectacular.
That's what we like to hear. You can, in your business, you should be able to put spectacular in a can, couldn't you?
If I could bottle it, I would.
Well, first of all, thanks so much for taking the time to be part of our leadership series, interviewing a number of executives about different topics around leadership. And why don't we just get right to it and just, if you can introduce yourself and tell a little bit about what you do, who you are.
Love to. First of all, thanks for having me. I've watched the series, and I think what you're doing has a lot of great value. So thanks for having me. Again, my name is Steve Nudelberg. I founded a firm 18 years ago called On the Ball. And interestingly enough, most people think that that's a sports reference. And really what it was a reference to my prior sales career. Everybody that I was able to build a relationship with said, you're really on the ball. And I said, wow, that'll make a great name for a company. And so 18 years ago, I created On the Ball. And On the Ball is a sales and marketing focused company. What we do today is invest time and talent, basically who we know and what we know, into emerging opportunities to help them grow. So as people are familiar with Shark Tank and they're looking to invest money, my firm invests relationships and know-how and resources to help early stage entrepreneurs make it to first base. So it has its wonderful moments, and as you know, my friend, it has its its fair share of challenges as well.
Well, life is an adventure, as they say, and you may recall we, if you will, reconnected a little while back. I remember you from your cellular, advertising and marketing days, which was, and so it left an indelible mark in my brain who you were.
It's so great.
And you are.
And obviously, that business was really fun for me. I caught it at the early stages, but I built a very large organization of like-minded individuals who took that early stage technology and took it to the marketplace, both on a local level here in South Florida, and we grew it nationally. So, for me, one of the overriding principles from then, which you just validated, was I didn't really want to sell phones to people. I wanted to build relationships. And then if and when they were choosing a phone, I wanted to be one of the people that they took a look at. And so that philosophy has led to, if you can believe that, I've been out of that business 22 years, and you still remember my ads on the radio. So it's very flattering. There's still people that stop me and go, "Hey, aren't you the phone guy?" So it was an amazing ride, fun to be part of. But fundamentally, it was our temperament about how we treat the sales process that really made us successful.
Yeah, and that really relates to our whole series, which is about leadership. And as you know, leaders, there's a lot of different definitions of leadership. One of them is, as you've talked about, is developing other leaders. It's developing a brand. It's getting people to follow. What's your definition of leadership?
I'm a big believer in energy, and people tend to follow that energy. So I believe a leader is the one that sets the pace. And when I speak to people, whether small or large groups, I liken it to, if I got up in front of you and my energy was low, you're not going to react well to me. So more often than not, we're injecting energy into companies, into individuals, and then ultimately, the skill sets come after that. But so for me, leadership is about setting the pace, being the front of the pack, and doing the things that others don't want to do or won't do. So for me, I get up, super early every morning, and people know that. They receive emails from me at 3:00 in the morning, and they go, "Oh my God, that's crazy." And I go, "It's really not. That's what I need to do in order to set the pace." And then the ones who, come to the party are the ones who are successful with me. So, I've been around lots of different leaders. It's not the only thing, but certainly it's something that I think without that, you do lack the ability to have people follow you.
Well, in our business, I've always told people that people hire people, companies don't hire people. and people join people. You don't join per se a company, which is right in line with what you're talking about. At the end of the day, it's all about people. And you've got a pretty diverse background. Like you said, corporate, consulting, startups, etc. How do you determine, or what's your view on what the two words we use the most in our business, what the right fit leadership is, especially for an entrepreneur, at different stages of business where they're initiating it, they're growing it, they're scaling it up,
It's an
etc.
awesome question.
How do you look at that?
For me, I liken it to the McDonald's hamburger when they took mayonnaise and ketchup and put it together and they called it special sauce. I think everybody has a special sauce, and if you're able to identify it, package it, and then biggest thing is execute it, that to me has a place at every stage of a company's growth. So certainly with us getting involved in early stage companies, you have to have that overriding sense of perseverance and, stick-to-itiveness, as a career sales guy, listen and know all the time. But, the reality is there's something special about every individual, and there's a time and a place for all of those individuals. So I know what I bring on a personal level to the party usually has a lifelong span. There's a role in the company, and whether some people call me the cheerleader or some people call me the guy that's actually the janitor, doesn't matter. There's nobody that's going to outwork me, and there's always room for that. So, and if I can set that pace and instill that in other people, which I have, and I've done that with, we just talked before, with my sons, with my friends, there's that idea that I've branded that in the marketplace, that you're not going to outwork me no matter what. That is in and of itself is proof that people will follow that and try and emulate it.
No, it's a great point. I always found a player will do anything for a coach that he knows is totally behind him and leading the way. And no matter what that coach asks, they'll do anything. And it makes a difference to being successful. What is then that it factor, as they call it, to creating a winning culture in an organization, be it a small one or a big one? Or what I like to talk about, again, comparing to sports is I spoke to an executive of an NHL team the other day, and he said every year we want to win the championship, but equally or more important, we want to have consistent winning seasons. We know we're not going to win the championship every year, but we know we need to have winning seasons every year. So what is that it factor for companies to do that?
Points in your comments. For me, I identify chemistry. When you look at winning teams, there's lots of different roles that people play, but ultimately it's managing that chemistry. And when you talk about somebody coaching, that idea that I got your back, business is not a constant. It's not good. It's not bad. It's always changing. It's always in a state of flux. I have people go, oh, you know what? My company's great. I'm really in a good place now. And I go, the elevator keeps moving, my friend. It doesn't stay on that floor. So you need to have that chemistry to be able to deal with really, really good times, and then conversely, really, really bad times. Because I will tell you this, in all fairness, the most learnings I've ever had, both for myself and for every company I've ever been involved with, is when it got really, really hard. Then you know who you're dealing with. What the up is always, when it's up, everybody can be happy and do it. It's when it's down that you really, really, it's the test of character. And that's where chemistry comes in. You can't predict it, but when you get it right, it's magic, and it's proven by hockey teams and football teams and certainly all sports analogies.
Yeah, we coined a phrase, from breakdown comes opportunity. I think you're 100% right. Anybody can have a good attitude when it's going well, but and the teams that win, they're planning for those future winning seasons by making tough decisions when things are going great. So you raised a lot of good points there. I want to tie that into a big topic these days, and you said you were in Dublin recently where there were 22,000 tech people, which blows my mind away. Social media, digital media, massive topic. I've been using this example a lot these days. I had an executive tell me the other day that he used to be able to have a meeting in his office, discuss the issues, the problems, everybody heart to heart, honest, everybody goes out and does their job.
Yeah,
now he tells me before the meeting's over, it's on Twitter, his meeting. And it's like what do you do? And you're a marketing expert. How does, especially an entrepreneur or any business leader, um, deal with the enormous amount of digital media and social media resources
So
and
a couple of
avenues or
things
whatever
before I answer that.
to be successful?
Statistically, there's a lot of senior executives who have not come to the party yet, have not grasped how to use social media and have not understood the
Right.
power of it. So they're intimidated by it. And just like anything else, when you're intimidated by something, it tends to be overwhelming and you make mistakes. If you understand the power that it is a one-to-one medium that allows you to develop relationships, most communications are one way. They push it out, and from a sales perspective, it was, I'm going to knock on your door and I'm going to try and sell you what I'm selling you now. This new medium has allowed for genuine information and genuine content to flow freely and then to listen back. And I think one of the things that most executives don't realize is that real time, you can listen. They forget that it's not just about people posting on Twitter. It's about actually listening to what's coming back. And that opportunity to real time listen to what your customer base or client base is actually saying is incredible. Because in time past, people would stick to a strategy. 6 months in, they would go, wow, we just went into a tunnel that has no end, when now you can react much faster. And so there's a couple of things about social media that I think people really need to grasp. Number one is that two-way conversation. And number two is that it's all about genuine brand building. So I am who I am, and I give people an opportunity to embrace that 24 hours a day. So if for some chance they don't like me or my firm, that's okay. I don't need to be everything to everybody. And the ones that really do react to who we are come in droves.
Right.
And we do, so it allows you to build mass. It allows you to build fans. And, the review platforms now are really what do more marketing than anything else. It just so happens that we're involved in a new business that's all about, helping small to medium-sized businesses manage their online reviews. But it's the number one way to market. You can tell me anything you want about you. Doesn't have the same validity as someone who's doing business with you telling me. So the medium is so powerful, and it's changing so fast. Being in Dublin at what was called the Web Summit 4 years ago, a group of guys got together, created an event, and they had about 400 people there. 4 years later, that same event at 22,000 was opened up by Bono. The people from Facebook and Google and any online platform were there, giving real-time information, and it does not stand still. Everything they told me 3 months ago is still in flux today. So you have to sort of get on that treadmill and go, okay, it's just not going to stop. You got to stay with it. So we've embraced it as a firm. We know it's an incredible, efficient way to build a brand. Is it hard to stay with? Yes, but you also realize you don't need to be involved in every platform. You don't need to be doing everything. You need to communicate like you would in this way. You just need to use social media to do that. So for me, I use LinkedIn. I'm one of the top 1% on LinkedIn, and I communicate with it. I feed it so that it feeds me back. Twitter is just a real-time conversation. And I hear a lot of my friends say, oh, Facebook, I don't really want to be on Facebook. It's actually one of the top places to develop business relationships, because you start social and move to business. So, when you get it, it becomes part of just like doing sit-ups. So hope that answers your question.
It's interesting. That's fascinating. I agree. And a couple of things you said I love is you're never going to handle everything. Just start somewhere and be good at it. And an interesting story, which initiated in Miami, has continued to LA, is I found with, remember years ago, companies used to say, actually companies can't talk, management used to say that they don't want their employees on the internet. Well, that obviously became ridiculous because they're going to get on even more. What I found is how it even affects communities and cities, because in our business, we'll have a lot of executives move to different cities, and they will look on the internet to see how people in those cities are talking about their city and everything. So I've found it even affecting the city basically about attracting talent and good organizations to come there based on how Joe and Jane are online talking
How
about the
powerful
company
is
they
that? I
work
mean, to
at
be able to
and what
jump
the
into
city's
those
like and people are
conversations,
welcoming or
to
not
listen in
welcoming.
real time,
That's
and then actually
just
react. I
one
mean,
city. It's amazing.
it's really
the impact.
overwhelming. So when you understand the power of it, it's interesting. Another statistic is that most small to medium-sized businesses Google themselves 3 times a month to find out what people are saying. It's a very relevant part of marketing. So whereas before you pay and I'm on TV and I'm telling you everything that I want you to know about me, it's not real anymore. It's just, do you really believe that Shaq is driving a Buick? I can tell you what he's doing. I knew I would bust you up.
He's not. Oh man.
He was really a weatherman.
I just learned that maybe Moses just didn't really part the Red Sea. He just knew the low tide, high tide. I just learned about that. It's like killing me. So one last question on this part. Boards of directors, and there's advisory boards. We do a lot of work in board advisory and board searches. Smaller companies, more and more even now, are getting boards for a lot of obvious reasons. Sometimes they just can't even afford to hire people permanently, but they can get board people to come on. There's a lot more diversity in boards, all times, from black, white, women, whatever, ages, expertise. In your experience, from small to big companies, what's the leadership factor?
Awesome question.
That you would look
not
at,
asked
if you will,
enough.
to accept
really
the board position,
so
or for that matter, to bring to create a board for
that's
one
a
of
good
your
thing,
clients.
right? So I sit on a few boards myself, but I think one of the big paradigm shifts was that
they
it
don't just
changed
hire me for
from
my good
board of
looks.
directors to board of advisors. So that terminology kind of opened up the door. And then just very similar to how we go out in search of investment opportunities, we look for smart investors. Some people can come to the table with money. Money isn't enough. We want smart people who can play a role, can open their Rolodex, and I still use the word Rolodex. For those of you who are watching that don't know what that is, my apologies. But I think it's important to add people who are passionate. We go back to that. And number 2, have something really to offer beyond just who they are in name. And I think in the old days it was like, well, look at my board. This guy is a senior advisor at this bank, and they weren't active. They came to one meeting a year. They got some kind of stipend, and that was it. So board of advisors are people who are interested in driving the business forward and bring more to the table than just their title. And it's interesting when you look at some executives, just because they're in the banking business doesn't necessarily mean that they're not entrepreneurial or don't have a passion for another category. And I use that specifically because our banker is on our board of advisors because he is a real entrepreneur and a client acquisition guru. He loves the strategy and he brings that to the party. So our board meetings are very interactive. They're we call it a sandbox as opposed to a corporate meeting room. Once we get in the sandbox, everybody brings their stuff and we just start talking and good things happen. So it's combination a social club that has very powerful business objectives, and when you do it right, it really is fun. I actually had somebody say something to me recently when we were one of the companies we were involved in started to grow rapidly, and he said to me, he goes, "What fun would it be if I was in the limo all by myself?" And he sort of said, "I want you guys in the limo with me." And it was like everybody in the room got fired up. And I've used that since because, if you get people who want to do that, now there are those who want to be in the limo by themselves. That's fine, but,
That's a great line.
Right, what is it? So it's
What's
I
the line you
like
always
that
hear?
camaraderie.
If you're
the part
celebrating a
about
victory
business in
and you're
general
looking
that I'm
around
most
and
attracted
your parents
to
aren't there,
is
or
the
this
people.
was nothing, no one's there to celebrate it with you.
You
It's
and
just
I,
not the same thing, right?
Years ago when we reconnected, it was still that same. And it's not about us doing business. It's not about us exchanging checks. So you know, that's just fun in and of itself. And if you can add that kind of recipe or that kind of ingredient to your recipe, it always brings great dividends.
Well, first of all, thanks again for participating on this, and I want to end by congratulating you on somewhat cloning all your philosophies with your University of Cincinnati coaching son, and that's the biggest achievement, as we said earlier, and
That'd
it's
be great. Look
probably the
forward to it.
biggest
Thank
fun
you.
that anybody could ever have.